What an awesome way to start out Volume 40, man. Just packed with action and just intensity, front to back, start to finish.
Gun Piece, Chapter 378, Casualties.
Well, hello, my brothers and sisters of the Nerd Nation, all you Franky Family supporters and you Straw Hat lovers, and, well, I, as always, am Jim, here to bring you another review on the awesome and action-filled tale of One Piece. Our last chapter saw us with, of course, just all hell breaking loose on Eni's lobby. Attacks coming from a couple of different fronts. You had everybody preparing to go in the Rocket Man as we were left off, and then you had the forward party of the Franky family, and of course some of the some of the shipwrights and whatnot, like Lulu and Tilestone and whatnot, and them all opening the gates so that Rocket Man could get through. And then, of course, Luffy, who is just sort of off on his own, just like whipping ass and taking names. Now, the chapter and the volume ended off with these two huge giants, Kashi and Oimo, appearing, and of course, standing in the way between where everybody is and where their goal is, right, with Franky and Robin and whatnot. So that's how the chapter and volume left off. And this one, we're going to start up here with Volume 40. And actually, it's pretty cool. Every time I make it to a solid number, 30, 40, 50, whatever, it feels like you've hit kind of a milestone. Just recently, obviously, hit the halfway point for where the series is now. And very cool stuff, man. Very well drawn. It looks like you've got the two giants in the background over there. You've got Bluno here. You've got Luffy looking cool. And I noticed the name of this volume is called Gear, right? And something I've noticed, too, in the comments over the last 7, 8, 9 months is that whenever I say, it's just an expression I've always used when you're going and getting ready to fight, you gear up to fight. And everybody, I've noticed comments about, if Jim only knew, if Jim only knew. And I'm thinking, what the hell are people talking about, right? So maybe that's what this has to do with, is all I'm saying, because now because this volume is called Gear. So maybe this has something to do with in some way, shape, or form, somebody being able to gear up their powers or something like that. I don't know. Or maybe some kind of item they receive that does make them more powerful. But we dive right into it over here, and this one is just absolute, just packed, front to back action, and it feels, the scale of it feels big. It feels like there's a war going on right now. It feels like some shit out of Lord of the Rings, right? It feels like some shit out of Braveheart or like a King Arthur type thing, man. Storming the castle. That's what it feels like. And that's what I like about it. The majority of the chapter actually winds up taking place. It starts off right where we left off, of course, with these two giants, Kashi and Oimo. And I'm assuming that because they talk about being these great warriors and everything else, that they're also from Elbaf, as were Dory and Broggy. And I'm assuming, that's where like the race of giants comes from, and that's where they hail from. So that's a pretty easy connection there for me to make. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong. But anyway. So these two wind up standing. Of course, they're standing in the way, and the three destroyers that they actually have, the Franky family has, are guys that are bigger than normal. They're 10, 12, 15-foot guys, but they look like pipsqueaks compared to Kashi and Oimo, right? And everybody's like, no, you gotta man up, our bro is back, is back, behind them. We gotta get through them, right? And they're like, we're not gonna let anybody through. And the destroyers are like, you know what? We gotta lead the charge to go and set an example for everybody else, because we're the biggest ones, right? So they come in there and they come in blazing, yeah, go, and then it just bah, 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 and in 3 panels they're done. All 3 of them are just knocked out, right? And Kashi and Oimo are just too big, too strong, too powerful, right? So the Franky family, though, are still like, this bullshit, we're not backing down, we're not going to quit, we're not going to go and take a step back. And then what they actually do is, with the help of the dock workers, you got guys like Paulie with his cool rope action trick, you got guys like Lulu, Tilestone, with the combination of all of them working together, as well as an attack from the 2 giant king bulls that they have, the King Yagara bulls or whatever, Sodom and Gomorrah, which I actually like because it's a throwback to the Bible, the Sodom and Gomorrah. But anyway, they wind up going and charging in. A Mozu and Kiwi winds up going and charging in on top of these things to go and just kind of... it looks like they maybe like hit one of the giants and kind of take them off, you know, take them aback, you know what I mean? Just kind of stun them, right? And then through a combination and series of actually everyone working together, which was also nice to see, they're able to take down Kashi, I believe he is, the first one. And you wind up getting, you know, Paulie comes from behind and he does his rope action figure 8 knot on him and he's pulling him back. And as he's going and falling, and as he goes and comes down a little bit, you got one of the Franky family members with a shoulder-mounted RPG rocket launcher, fires that at him, whatever. As they get this sumbitch down, right, and they're starting to get him bloodied and beaten, then they go and they pin him down, God, what the hell is that? Like Gulliver from Gulliver's Travels. Anybody who ever read the story or saw the movie or anything like that? The movie with Jack Black, I guess, or that cartoon from back in like the 80s or 90s. But nonetheless, though, instead of tying him down, they go and they nail his ass down with nail guns and everything and take him out. And then the other one is still, you know, still up and well, I guess you would say, Oimo. But it definitely looks like the Franky family is getting the upper hand, is getting the advantage, you know, and along with the help, of course, of everybody else that has come along. So it's really cool to just see everybody working together. And again, the scope and scale just feels so big. There's so many characters to draw in each given panel. And it's so cool because it makes you feel like you're in the midst of this kind of battle, you know, embroiled in this battle. So sometime during the course of the chapter, we wind up getting kind of a check-in with what's going on with Luffy. And instead of actually seeing Luffy, we get a check-in where, you know, he's calling from one of the Den Mushis, one of the snail phones, and it's Spandam, right? The human condom over there, the spandex condom, and he's calling over to, you know, one of the gate guards. He's, what's going on? And they're like, Oimo and Kashi are holding everybody back. They're taking care of that end. And then he goes, you know, he says, okay, well, what about the Straw Hat? You know, obviously, what about Luffy, you know? And he's like, okay, well, yeah, looks like 400. And he's like, 400 what? And he's like, 400 casualties. And then it goes to this double-page spread of Luffy, right? I think I got it on the page here. And Luffy is using the Gum Storm. And I mean, just whipping ass. I mean, he has just been cutting a swath through everybody that he goes through, right? And guys that he can't stop and beat, like in the last chapter, he was like, all right, don't worry, there'll be somebody here to take care of you later on, you know? And I love it because then he's like, then the guy's like, no, actually, I think add 100 more to that. I think it's 500. And Spandam's like, what the hell? He can't just be cutting through all these soldiers. You know, these are battle-hardened, trained soldiers. And it's like, Luffy is on a mission. Luffy is on a mission to save Robin, and he's all geared up. He's had his meat. He's ready to go, man, you know, and I just cannot wait to see till I see everybody just getting embroiled in the battles, and we're gonna have probably battles and fights against, you know, different CP9 members, and man, awesome stuff though. Very, very cool though. But again, just to see Luffy just whipping ass and taking names through everybody, and then Spandam's like, oh yeah, he's just running around trying to. There's too many soldiers, of course, you know. And he's just kind of running around the island, you know, running rampant, and that may be the case, not staying in one place and what have you. But if there's 10,000 soldiers on the island and Luffy's already taken down 500 of them, hey boy, that's a good start. That is a good start. That's 5% of the total, you know, soldiers on the island. Anyways, the chapter winds up ending off though. It goes and it takes us back to the Rocket Man, and they're preparing. Their 5 minutes is up. They're preparing because they were supposed to wait 5 minutes and then go, and then the gates would be open for them. And they're like, so everybody's saddling up, getting ready for that. And they're like, okay, okay, samurai guy, you know, referring to Zoro, you know, cut us a hole through that gate, through the iron gate. And Zoro's like, gladly, you know. And you got Yokozuna, the frog, standing next to him, dude. I want to see a frog whipping some ass, and a frog named Yokozuna too. Anybody who ever followed the WWF, Yokozuna was this huge, like 450 pound sumo wrestler guy. That was around for a long time. Who knows? I don't really watch it anymore, so I don't know if he's still around, but he was big back in the 90s when I watched it. And so that's what's funny. Whenever I think of this like giant frog, I just think of, you know, the sumo wrestler, and maybe that's what he was modeled after, because I know they talk about him, you know, his sumo moves and everything else Luffy talked about a couple chapters ago. So awesome way, an explosive way to start out the chapter, and it's kind of one of those, like, what's the joke when Jesus turned water into wine? You know, it was like, boom, keep the party going, right? That's how I feel with this, man. It's just adding on, and every chapter is just a delight, you know. And it's good because none of this was really slow to begin with, but this is kind of a neat, just sort of culmination of everything that has sort of come together and transpired and gone down. And it's kind of the ultimate struggle between the Straw Hats, the pirates, which kind of represent like free will and, you know, and sort of like not, and sort of going against the grain and not really conforming to all the laws and rules of society, against the government, the world government, who pretty much tries to keep people lined up and blind like sheep, you know. And there's a lot of parallels to be made there in the political world and everything like that, and obviously in our world. And a lot of that's discussions for another time as opposed to individually in each chapter. But I just think it's really kind of cool because it's not even like a representation of good versus evil. It's just like a representation of pretty much opposites in their way of thinking, kind of like free spirits and like, you know, the ones that kind of live and die by the laws that have been put in place. They don't question them, you know, and they do it all in the name of justice, you know. So that's kind of what I take from it, but that's just me again. So, you know, I encourage everybody to have their own opinions on things. You may take something entirely different from this series or for this particular arc of the series. Very cool, though. Very good way to start out the, you know, obviously the volume. My chapter question for you, though, brothers and sisters, is really, you know, what are your thoughts, of course, on everyone working together and just kind of the scale of this whole battle? Do you like this, or does it get maybe a little bit too crazy and confusing for you? I'm sure that it'll be depicted even better in the anime, as a lot of these action scenes are. It's just very difficult to go and convey exactly what you want to for a battle sequence, just when you only have, you know, static, flat, two-dimensional pictures. Whereas it's a little bit easier when you have, you know, when you have the animation, you have the color, you have obviously the movement, the sound, all that kind of culminates and comes together for sometimes a better, richer experience, I think. Not all the time, but I think it definitely does very well, especially in the action parts, you know. So, good stuff, though, all around. Let me know what your answer is to that question in the comments down below. Feel free to hit the thumbs up, the like button, if you should think that I deserve it. And subscribe if you haven't done so already. We will look forward to catching all of you in the next one. Remember to subscribe to my other channels and follow me on Twitter and Facebook and Instagram too.